I tried the Zen 65 and you should too. Why? And you should too? Well, howdy hey, I'm Hipyo and I tried over 50 keyboards last year. And in my quest to find the best budget keyboard, this one just might be it. And I know what you're thinking, Hipyo, this seems really similar to the Rainy 75. Well, what if I told you that this thing is cheaper and better in every single way? Okay, except one, but we're gonna talk about that. So in this video, I'll be trying these very pretty keyboards and putting them to the test to see, are they really that good? Are they just a bit of a scam? But there's just one twist. You see this? It takes 5 seconds to mod this keyboard. So you bet we're gonna mod it, baby, woo! Now, full disclosure, this video is sponsored by Wobkey, who did not review this video, did not tell me what to say, and all of my thoughts are my own. Also, second, very important disclosure, I'm making this video in April of 2025, where there's lots of questions about tariffs and keyboards getting way more expensive, and I'm not going to put it in the video because things are changing so often, but please check the description before buying. Now, in these magical boxes in front of me are keyboards that could potentially change everything, because they're really affordable, they're really stinking good, and they're also Zen, I guess, for some reason. Now, similar to the Rainy 75, these keyboards are starting as a Kickstarter, but will be in stock later in the future. So if you don't like Kickstarters, you don't like group buys, then just wait it out, bro. Wait it out. In fact, I honestly do kind of urge you to wait it out. However, if you do decide to buy this as a Kickstarter, you are going to get the best possible price of $89 US for the early bird units. However, in general, they'll be around $130 US. Now, these are pre-built keyboards, which I'll talk about more later, but what comes in the box? Well, you get a basic accessory package with a nice cable, a keycap puller, some bonus switches, which are, whoa, really good, and these weird gaskets that'll be very important later to why this board is so cool. Now, when evaluating a pre-built keyboard, there's a couple things we need to keep in mind. Number one is aesthetics, and this keyboard does come in multiple different colors, with this one being really kind of ugly, honestly. Those keycaps, not my thing. I'm going to set that to the side. But the black version does look really nice with these cool little RGB accent keycaps. It also comes in a couple different colors, as I'll link down below, but I am making this with very limited information. Some other things to keep an eye out for is, does this board sound good? Does this board feel good? Are the switches decent for most people? Is it easy to modify? And, ooh, that does feel pretty good. We're going to check that out more later. And does it have a good software and hardware experience overall? I mean, ooh, look at that brass weight on the back though, nice. Now, this particular keyboard is a 65%, which means you're not gonna have the F row of a 75%, you're not gonna have a numpad, but you will keep your arrow keys. This is good enough for most people, but it is something to definitely keep in mind. Now, the overall construction and build quality here is relatively good. Like, it's very hefty, it's solid aluminum with a brass accent on the more premium version, and this cheese-colored one, despite being cheese-colored, still does look relatively nice with that Wob Lab thing on the back, which hides a secret. Interestingly enough though, this board has 0 ping despite being full aluminum. None. Where's the ping hiding? How is the ping hiding? What is the secret here? If you're new to keyboards, usually a lot of aluminum keyboards have ping, which makes them sound like blacksmith anvils rather than premium nice keyboards. So we'll have to get this thing open in just a second. What we can get open though is this little back hatch, which hides your 2.4 gigahertz dongle. Yes, this thing is wireless, and Wobkey is known for actually having very fast responsive wireless keyboards. However, you do not have to use it wirelessly and can still use it plugged in with the included cable. So you could just tuck that bad boy away. Now, one feature that you'll often see with more premium keyboards is gasket mounting, which makes your keyboard more flexible. And in the default configuration, you kind of get nothing. Maybe it's got too much foam in it, maybe the gaskets are too stiff, but I feel virtually no flex and virtually no vibration, which could be a good thing, as some people really do hate gasket mounts and some people adore them. But as we open this thing up later, you'll kind of see that there's quite a lot of options on the inside, like maybe too many options. One thing I did notice right away is that this board does feel like a breeze to type on. Maybe it's the switches, maybe it's just the nice build quality overall, but so far, there's nothing here that I'm hating, which is kind of weird. Normally I'm a bit of a hater. But now it was time to check out the best feature of this whole entire keyboard. The thing that sets it apart from the Rainy 75. Oh, I didn't just break my keyboard there. That's how easy it is to take this thing apart. Now, Wobkey calls this their quick dismantling structure, which is me when you comment something mean. But essentially, it's just a really quick way to take apart and reassemble your keyboard. It's become really popular on a lot of fancy, more higher end keyboards, and also a lot of keyboards that sit around the $150 range. And you're probably like, Hipyo, why would I want to take my keyboard apart that easily? Well, it's so you can modify it. And boy howdy, will I be modifying this keyboard throughout this video. Now, part of the reason that this thing might sound so good and feel so heavy is that they have 236 grams of brass right here. That's a brass inlet. Now, Wobkey says that this gives it a deeper, more premium acoustic, making it resonate at a deeper frequency, but honestly, I think this keyboard is gonna sound pretty clacky, so I'm not really sure what it would sound like without the brass. Now, the cool thing is the keyboard assembly itself is also magnetic, meaning that I can just replace it that easily, no cables, no nothing. And just by removing one sheet of case foam, this board already has a ton more gasket performance, way more flex, way more bounce. Now, I will be modifying these keyboards in different ways, so keep an eye out for this white one because it's gonna get the brunt of everything. Despite not having the brass weight on the outside, it still has the brass weight on the inside, so it might sound a little bit different than the other one. We'll also be putting that to the test. Now, one thing I have forgotten to mention is that this thing comes with two different switch options. The first is the violet switches from HMX, which are in my Rainy 75 video, so I recommend you go check that out. Those switches are super duper good, however, I'm more excited about these lunar switches from Kale. What's really interesting about these is that they're a box style switch with a standard stem, which gives them a very, very unique sound. Also, obviously, this board is hot swappable. It features plate mount stabilizers, which is an interesting choice, but they're very, very, very good, and double shot PBT keycaps that are nothing to write home about, but also not bad. These stabilizers didn't require any lubing, and both sets on both of my boards were buttery smooth right out of the box. Now, what I think is super fun about this board is the ability to customize it in so many different ways. Now, they say it's like 1,000 ways or something like that. I'm not going to do the math, that's ridiculous, but I will be trying out a lot of them in just a second, after I try out the Epic Gamer RGB. There's an on-off switch, which is sadly hidden under the caps lock. Come on guys, please just integrate that into the case already. And RGB that is pleasantly very bright and visible. Even without shine through keycaps, it gives your keyboard a lovely glow that I am obsessed with. And you can kind of customize it with QMK or VIA, the software choice of this keyboard. I was not able to test QMK or VIA because I have an early version of this board, but QMK and VIA is a great software on every other keyboard that I've tried it on. There you go. And again, the white version just looks depressingly sad. I'm not sure what they were thinking with these keycaps. Sorry guys, bad choice. Now, without any of the foams, the board has a crazy gasket flex. Just look at this thing. Dear God, that's insane. But I want to try top mounting the board. So let's pull this out. And you might be wondering, Hipyo, what's the point of top mounting, or what's the point of mounting keyboards in other ways? Well, number one, it changes the acoustics of the board. Number two, it changes the feel of the board. And number three, it makes you feel very special about yourself, which is the only thing that we care about in life. Top mounting mounts the plate assembly of the keyboard to the top of the case. Now, to make sure that there's not any ping, we have these little rubber washers that will sit in between everything. Kind of like a gasket mount, just don't think about that. Then we just place the board assembly in and get to screwing. Don't take that out of context, please. Now, what's crazy about this keyboard is that all of this was so easy and so fast to do. There was no worry about cables, there was no worry about messing anything up. I was just able to modify it and figure out my preference really, really quickly. The only annoying thing is these little nubs that keep falling off every time I open and close the keyboard, but those are very important for making sure that the keyboard doesn't ping. For the top mount, I have some gripes. It makes the keyboard feel much stiffer, but sound much better. However, it also makes it so the keyboard just doesn't really work with the rapid disassembly. Like, these clips completely broke off of my PCB when opening and closing the board, which that sucks, that's stupid. We found the first thing we hate. And you have to absolutely force this thing once you have it top mounted. Like, it's no longer rapid and easy. And forcing it is what breaks those clips, which means you can't do the other gasket mount if you've top mounted it. So try the other gasket mount first. This is potentially something they could fix before the launch of the keyboard, but I think these are already in production, so I definitely wouldn't count on it. Now, speaking of production, the keycaps on the other board absolutely suck, so I'm going to be replacing them with my keycaps. This is Polycaps Coffee Shop, which is now printed in the USA in New Jersey. And now it's finally in stock again! Woo! Hipyo.co or Kinetic Labs. Check it out, link down below. Dear God, that took absolutely forever because we had to fully remake the set from scratch. This is a lovely coffee-themed set with some very, very cute coffee novelties that are done by Leg Dad. I've got a full video on how I made this keycap set, which you can check out in the top right. There are a few minor color differences between this and the last run, but overall, I still think it's absolutely incredible. These are also die sub PBT, which is more reflective of what most of you might be using on your keyboard, so with a little bit of magic, I'm gonna get this thing disassembled. Disassembling this board also lets you notice that those flex cuts are kind of insane. I really wish they would have done a version without flex cuts. That way the board would sound slightly less thin. But these switches are probably why the RGB is so good, because dear God, those are like headlights, bro. Those are freaking headlights. Anyways, putting the keycaps on. And voila bing, voila boom. But yeah, if you want these keycaps, link down below. Please check them out. Please support. Now, I also tried this board with various amounts of foam. Also, some other gasket mounts. And my ultimate experience with this thing is that it can sound quite a bit different depending on which configuration you use. But ultimately, all of them sound really good. So what are my final thoughts on this thing? Well, if you get the $89 version, you're making some sacrifices, you're having worse switches, less battery, etc., but it's still an amazing deal. And if you opt for the $130 version, it's still a crazy, crazy value. Similar to the RD75, the Bridge 75, and all of the other rapid disassembly keyboards that I've looked at, and even the Crush 80 from WobKey, that's a fantastic board. This keyboard does almost everything right, and it's effectively perfect for anyone who's getting their first keyboard. It sounds amazing. It looks amazing, except for that white version, but now it looks good. And ignoring the fact that it's a Kickstarter, which is kind of cringe, this thing should be your first custom keyboard. That could be a problem. It's actually colliding with the case. Too much flex here.